3 months into the Trump regime, Donald is getting absolutely crushed in the polls, and it's clear that voters are reacting to his terrible policies and his dangerous, quite frankly, unhinged tariff war. His approval rating is crashing, and it's only going to get worse. Take a look at Harry Enton on CNN.
Let's take a look right here. Donald Trump's net approval rating. In early February, according to CBS News, look at that, it was +6. Late February, +2. March, 0. Even approval, disapproval. Look at where we are now, -6 points. He's underwater for the first time in the CBS News YouGov poll, at least in his second term. Again, it's the trend line that's so important here, and the trend line and the American people are turning against Donald Trump. And that's why I said at the beginning, Jessica, that this, in my mind, is the worst poll that Trump has received in his second term so far.
Okay, cool. I'm happy that that's the trend line, but the fact that it's taken this long, quite frankly, makes me wonder about people. Anyway, according to a UMass Amherst poll, 51% of Americans say they disapprove of his job performance. Again, that means he's underwater, but still, 49% approve. What the? Anyway, moving on. An Economist YouGov poll found this disapproval rating even higher at 52%. This net approval of -10 is down slightly from last week when 43% approved and 51% disapproved. And Donald's just not losing approval with the American people. He's losing it with his once loyal base, and quite quickly. According to this chart, at the beginning of his second term, Republicans' approval of Donald was at 88%. But in the past few months, that number has plummeted and sits now at 72%. By the way, 88% isn't particularly high either. You know, typically your party supports you in to the sometimes in the high 90s. So he was starting at a fairly weak position anyway. 72% is or should be for Donald alarming, but that of course suggests that people are telling him what his polling numbers are, and I'm not going to hold my breath about that one. The polls tell an even more detailed story about how voters feel about the economy. But before we go further and dive into that, please like this video, share it, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel. We are pushing for 400,000 subscribers. It's independent media. Your support helps us reach more people and keep this going. So it looks like the writing is on the wall for Donald and his extremely unpopular tariff war. This week's polling made one thing abundantly clear. The way Americans are feeling about Donald's sweeping tariffs and the global trade war he sparked single-handedly, unilaterally, and unprovoked. They do not like it one bit, nor should they. Watch what voters had to say on CTV and NBC News.
I think it's pretty ridiculous and a slap in the face to our allies. Like, you guys have our back, you stimulate our economy.
It might cost us more in the long run, you know, down here. And he has a lot of different things he's doing and may come back to bite him. All of us, you never know.
I mean, it's something that's over 80 years. We've had trade partners that we trusted, that they trusted us, and we've lost that over the course of 2 months or a month.
Well, I manage our stock portfolio, so I viewed it today, and I'm not going to say how much it was down, but it was down 6 figures, that's our retirement, that's our kids, that's our kids' schooling, their college, everything.
I don't know. He's saying it's to reduce drugs and things across the border, but I don't buy that really.
Yeah, I'm actually glad that last man mentioned the drug excuse, because that was the initial rationale given by Donald for increasing tariffs on our neighbors to the south and north, Mexico and Canada. Of course, it was completely fallacious. The sentiment shared by those people you just heard from has been reflected in many polls that were taken this week. 62% of respondents said Donald was handling inflation poorly, while 58% said the same about his management of trade policy, and 53% said the same about his work on job creation, according to a U.S. Amherst poll. These outcomes were extremely similar in an Economist YouGov poll, and since Donald's disastrous trade war began, there's been a massive spike in voters who feel our economy is getting worse. Arizona voters, who are key swing state voters in a state that voted for Donald last year, agreed with these sentiments. Donald carried Arizona voters who were 65 or older, winning 52% of this group. But people like Hans Vinch, who's 62, a former Republican disillusioned by the party's ideological shift under Donald, told AP that the Trump regime is doing too much, too fast, with unrealistic expectations for his tariff plan. He told AP, quote, "We're not ready right now. These companies aren't going to come from offshore into America. It's going to take 10, 15 years to get these companies in to Americanize everything, which is great, but it's just too disruptive right now," unquote. Oh, look at that. An average American consumer who understands the economy and the way tariffs work better than Donald does, which isn't hard. So true. Anyway, Donald is also rapidly losing support from young people, too, which is a good sign. Yale polled young people this month specifically about Donald's handling of immigration, deportation, and campus protests, finding how increasingly angry young people are about the Trump regime's actions. According to the poll, 78.7% of young voters opposed deporting international students who participated in campus protests against Israel's war in Gaza. The poll found opposition to deportation extended across party lines for the under 30 demographic, with fewer than 10% of respondents saying they supported the policy or were unsure. Now, this comes as the Trump regime continues to punish international students and universities for any form of participation in pro Gaza protests, even going as far as to arrest and threaten deportation to many of these people while cutting funding for universities. The poll also asked about attitudes towards the judiciary. 75.7% of voters said that Donald should be required to obey court rulings. I'm a little shocked the number is that low, but that's still 3/4 of the American people. This comes on the heels of Donald's refusing to follow court orders. And this should resonate with all of us. Why? Because the president of the United States is not a tyrant. He is not a king. He should not be above the law. I mean, this one is, but theoretically, he should not be above the law. And Americans don't like it when there's a double standard. They don't like it when the powerful among us are given more and more loopholes to escape through. So, if there is a rule of law for us, there certainly should be a rule of law that applies for the guy we employ. So, this is sort of an evergreen question, and I think it's sort of rhetorical one as well. Who's more unpopular than Donald himself? Yeah, probably. Well, I don't think chlamydia is, but Elon Musk is. Nobody likes this guy. Shocking, I know. So, according to three polls, Elon's unfavorability stands between 53 and 56%. Again, why is that so low? That number should be through the roof. Anyway, he's now less popular than Donald, despite Donald's own plummeting poll numbers. In the past, before his making common cause with the Trump regime, Elon Musk enjoyed broad popular public support because people always seem to think rich people are better than they actually are. But his deepening ties to authoritarian policies and anti democratic rhetoric have sharply reversed his image, particularly among young voters and moderates. Musk's numbers have dropped sharply since 2024, when he still held some bipartisan appeal. Now, a significant portion of the public perceives Musk's actions as politically motivated and self serving. Funny, it's not just voters who feel this way. It's also other members of the Trump regime. Shocking. I mean, they can't stand him. They find him arrogant. They think he's not nearly as intelligent as he thinks he is, and he always thinks he's the smartest person in the room. And maybe worst of all, I mean, they probably don't really care about the fascism and authoritarianism because they like that too. But you guys probably know somebody like this. Somebody who actually thinks they're funny, but they're not. That's Elon Musk. So imagine having to go into work every day with that guy, knowing that he has more power than you do, and he can tell you what to do, at any minute because he thinks he's better, smarter, funnier, and probably more handsome than you are. It must just be so frustrating to have to be not even a coworker, somebody who is in the same room with Elon Musk and can't talk back. My word. Anyway, it's sort of like being an American and having to live under the Trump regime. Good luck, everybody. Please take a second and like and share this video. Be awesome if you could subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to us in podcast form, please follow us and give the show a 5-star rating because it really does help other people find our content. Thanks.